I'll take you at your word that you really want to master the skills, dig in and get to the principles. I would say, as an estimate, as a kind of a figure to stick on it, we probably have an 80-20 situation with regard to people's interest in NLP. Probably 80% of the people who approach it are really interested in the techniques. They just want to be told, give me a recipe that will make people do what I want them to do. I don't want a better relationship with them. I don't really want to interact with them. I just want them to comply. Or I want a technique that will make it so that I won't have to take responsibility for any aspect of my life. I'll just feel good for no good reason. Or. That search for the technique, the magic technique that will sort out your entire problem in your entire life. And there's a space for that. Bookstores and the internet are absolutely full of it. I would say about 20% of people who approach NLP are interested in applying it somewhere specifically. So let's say it's within their job. A manager who wants to become a better manager, a better communicator. A salesman who wants to be able to sell more and do it better. And a certain proportion of people who want to use NLP as a personal development means, or a mode for personal development. And within that 20%, then there's a very, very small percentage of people who actually want to master the skills. And I like those people. I really do. Because I know something that maybe some other people don't. Which is that the more you master the skills and the more you manage to get those principles working through you, the easier your life gets, the more fun you have, the easier it is to do the things that have to be done, like making money and keeping the show on the road. And it just makes for an overall more enjoyable life. So it's a fruitful path, and it's also an enjoyable one. So what do you have to do? Well, NLPTimes and I have been doing something called the Platinum Audio News Club. And one of the things that we do in the Platinum Audio News Club is I'm starting to help weave together some of those pieces that may have been dropped out in the trainings that people have had, or from the books that they've read. If they've been full of techniques, then they just won't know how certain things are connected. And what that means is you have to revisit some of the topics that you thought were closed. Like, for example, I had a case of somebody the other day who said, oh, I know all about those accessing cues stuff, so I don't want to talk about accessing cues, but I do want to know the secrets of modeling. And so I just gave him a little test. And so I started using visual language and started looking up and talking about, well, you see, it's this way, and all the rest of that. And I asked him then, so what representational systems was I using? He said, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. I went, right, okay. You don't have to pay attention in order to pick up things like accessing cues. If they've been drilled in as some separate bit of human experience, often to the side, then you are going to have to think about it. But when you really learn how to use accessing cues and language and submodalities and strategies, they all fit together as one. In order to relearn that, though, you're going to have to open some content that you thought you might have mastered already. There's very few people who actually push the language models through to the level that you can push through to in order to make them function magically for you. And that's something that takes a little time and a little attention and a whole bunch of desire to make people's lives better. Generally, I've found if you've got the attitude being not curiosity, I mean, that's a prerequisite for NLP, but the attitude of you will do whatever it takes to help people improve their lives, that you can then go through and do the study that you have to do of things like taking what was unconscious around how we process language and how we understand language and make it conscious. When you take something on like that, one of the first things that happens is you trip over your shoelaces. And the reason for that is that when things have been practiced to the point of unconscious, or if they went in as unconscious, to take them out and examine them and try and work with them, you're creating confusion, additional complication in a process that's already streamlined. But if you want to master the language aspects of NLP, you have to do that. One of the things that I insist my students do, well, the ones who say that they want to become masters of language, is that they learn to apply the meta model to their own internal dialogue and their own internal processes. In other words, that they learn effective self-questioning and self-intervention. And what I don't mean by that is I don't mean coming up with flashy presuppositions. What would I be doing now if I knew I couldn't fail? That's all fine, that's all great, you know, but that really is, that's the kid stuff. What I'm talking about is driving the meta model to the point where when you get in trouble, or when you don't feel like doing things, or when your mood shifts in an unhelpful way, that you can use those language models in order to not just find out what's going on, but to make those reactions ridiculous and immediately make you able to relinquish them. You can do that with the language models, but you have to work. What else? If you really want to start moving and integrating the principles of NLP, one of the best things that you can do is you can start talking with lots of people, and particularly people that you don't know and don't like. There is nothing better than really coming to understand people who are different from you and not like you. I mean, I've had a distinct advantage in that I work in organizations and a lot of different industries, so I get to meet lots and lots of different people. I didn't like all of the people that I had to work with, but those were the best opportunities that I had for discovering how various kinds of patterns worked, how motivation worked, how decision-making worked, especially in those circumstances when people were making decisions in a way that I thought was wrong from a totally objective and godlike perspective. That's where you really learn. But you have to create for yourself the opportunity to do that